Asakura versus Pantoja for the World Championship. Does that sound right to you? Asakura versus Pantoja in a sold-out T-Mobile Arena. Does that sound right to you? The year-ending card, Asakura versus Pantoja in the main event for the World Championship on pay-per-view. Does that sound right to you? I got to tell you. If you know Asakura, yeah, it sounds right. And one thing about it, you can get the boys together, you can put them in a room. 1 hour later, they will tell you who the leader is. They'll also tell you who the co-captain is. They don't have to touch, they don't have to fight, they don't have to arm wrestle. They don't even have to come near each other. You took a group of dudes, you put them in a room for 1 hour, everybody would know who's who in that room. And you haven't heard a 125-pounder complain. You cannot give me a name of a 125-pounder who's been in the octagon, who's been through it, who's traveled the road, who's made the towns, who's checked into the hotels, who's got on the scale, who's done the media tour, that has complained and said Asakura doesn't deserve to walk right into this shot. And I know it's been done before, but I'm having a hard time remembering when. I do know that it's been done. I can even see a guy in my head that did it. I'm thinking my own teammate Dan Henderson when he came over from Pride. I'm thinking he might have even gone right in against Rampage or right in against Anderson for a title. So I know that it's been done before. I know Anderson came over and he only had one fight against Chris Leva, went right into Rich Franklin, but that's still one fight. That's still one removed, right? It's not quite the same as debuting in a world title. Debuting in the fight capital of the world. Literally the very place that legally coined the term mixed martial arts. The very place that came up with the original and initial set of unified rules. It's a lot to walk into. And it's also a lot to have world champions stand down. Now, there's a policy. If there's one world title on the line, the world title goes last. The world title always goes last. The world title is always the main event. The only time you got to go read the asterisks is if there's two. Or if there's three. But the world title always goes last. I will share for you, for a gentleman who's debuting and never done this, to walk out after world champions like Chris Weidman, who will be in the Hall of Fame. World champions and reigning top contenders like Aljo Sterling. Just for example, for everybody to stand back and let a guy debuting make that walk second to last. It's a very interesting thing. And some of it is done out of respect, and some of it is because there's a policy and it happens to be a title fight. The point that I'm really trying to make for you is Asakura can fight. Now, not very many people have ever debuted in a world title fight and or a main event. And not very many people have ever debuted in the UFC and looked great on day one. That's a rare thing. Like a Justin Gaethje type entrance is a rare thing. Randy Couture could play on day one to the extent that they gave him his moniker of the natural. He was a natural. There's not a lot of guys like that. And the reason that experience is helpful is only for one thing, and it may not be what you think of, but the reason is you can stay calm, and the reason staying calm is important is because it's a game of cardio. If I'm tougher than you or you're tougher than me, what are we really talking about? We both mustered up the courage to get in there, whether we wanted to do it or not, so it's a wash. Throw it out. Me tougher than you or you tougher than me means one thing. Can you go hard longer than I can, which comes down to who's in the best shape? Mixed martial arts and these tough guys and the missing teeth and the little tattoos that you think are really tough guys, they're just in better shape than you are. I mean, if you really wanted to boil it down, they can do that over 3 rounds and they can do it over 5 rounds. You got all sorts of ways to do it. We go put them on a track and field and just have them do sprints back and forth till one of them says I'm done. Like the unified rules is just a way of getting that energy out. It is nothing more than a contest of who is in better shape than who. And regardless of what your cardio level is, you're a human being and things can affect it, such as chemicals like adrenaline. Very true. When you talk about who's got the pressure on them, the reason that matters is it creates a fatigue, and that fatigue can create an exhaustion. And when Asakura has never done something like this before, and he's also going in against Pantoja, who has quite possibly the best pace in the UFC. Pantoja's secret sauce is not his team, it's not his training. His secret sauce is his ability to out-scramble everybody he's ever fought, and he can out-scramble them for one reason. He's in better shape than them. And a lot of that is DNA. I would suspect if you went and did a blood count on him, he's got very high H&H. I wouldn't be surprised if you did an x-ray that he's got an extra large lung. Truly. But Asakura is a very interesting guy, and no fellow fighter, including world champions, has complained about this placement. Nobody ranked within the top 10 has complained about his placement. I mean, you're telling me that we can't get Bo Nickel and Chimaev together. We can't do it because they're too far in the rankings. Asakura isn't in the rankings. And I think more than anything, I would just like this point to be made. Right? As soon as there's a precedent, we can now do it. We look at the rankings committee and we laugh. We don't take these guys serious. The reason I don't do interviews and bring guys from the rankings committee on here is you don't respect them. But we don't respect them either. They don't know what they're doing. It's been suggested they be replaced with AI, and I predict that they will, but I still want to bring the same thing to you. The reason you're telling me we can't get fights that we want to see is because they're too far in the rankings. Asakura is not ranked. And it does come back to the original point that I made to you 7 minutes and 17 seconds ago, which is you get the boys together in a room for an hour, they all know who's who, and nobody's complaining. That the unranked guy who happens to be debuting in the fight capital of the world on pay-per-view in the main event for the belt, nobody's complaining about that. Asakura is a very tough guy. He's a very dangerous guy. But you don't need to go and look and see if he knows the rubber guard or if he can hit a spinning Superman punch. You don't have to do any of those things. You just have to find out, in a normal environment, is he in better shape than Pantoja, who might be the best conditioned athlete the sport has? That's it. When you figure that out, put your bet forward, because that's the guy that's going to win.